And a good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you, the good and people of the tube. Hope you're well today, hope you're feeling grand and all is well in your world. So I just took a drink before I started filming and now I can't speak. Hello everybody. Today, people of the tube, I'd like to talk to you about our saviour, Mr. Feedback. The reason I want to do this video is because I want to get across to people, especially guitarists or anybody, you know, even bass players or anybody who uses kind of like high gain. Feedback is not something to be got rid of. I've seen a lot of guitarists online, I've seen a lot of professional guitarists, and I've played with a lot of guitarists who, if their guitar starts feeding back, they go and turn the gain down. And say, oh, that's too much gain. If it's feeding back, it's like it's a bad thing, and it's not a bad thing. And I'm here today to tell you why, if I can. I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to try and get my point across. So I've seen loads of people. I remember watching an interview with Phil X talking about his guitar sound, and he doesn't like his guitar to feed back. You know, it will because he plays loud, but he doesn't like it. You know what I mean? He says like he tries to avoid it. And I've known a lot of guitarists and played in a lot of bands with a lot of guitarists who do not like their guitar to feed back. Me, on the other hand, coming from the world of Mr. Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain and John Frusciante, I've always gone the other way, and Gary Moore. I embrace feedback and I love it. And I hate playing without my guitar feeding back like a crazy person. I love it. Like for instance, like one of my favourite sounds is to combine my Marshall Governor, which is already heavily distorted, with my DS2, which is maxed out. And again, if I leave the volume down, this happens. That's a lot of gain, you know. But if I turn the volume up, this happens. It's immediate. Yeah, if I turn the DS2 off, no feedback. But I turn the DS2 back on, it's just immediate. It goes crazy. But what I can do here is use the feedback to my advantage to make this... Now this guitar will sing. Because there's so much gain on it. It's just every note is feeding back. In opposed to this. That's nice and has its moments, but I much prefer the guitar to... I want it to sing. You know, I always try and think of like a violin. When a violinist plays, the sound, you know, with the bow, it's just constantly going. You know, it never goes... You know, violinists very rarely go... You know, they don't do that. Violinists, like, it all... You know, it's so singy and drawn out. And that's what I've always wanted that. Because like I say, if I could play any other instrument other than the guitar, it'd be a violin. Even over like piano or anything else. I just love the sound of a violin. I love the way it bends and it flows. And that flow is something that I attribute to guitar feedback. You know, I love it when a guitar is feeding back, especially with the DS2. The DS2 is one of my favourite pedals of all time because of that reason. It just sings, even with a lower kind of like sound. If I put the Golden Plexi on now, that's even got lower gain. But if I put the DS2 on, because there's so much gain in it, it still goes crazy. But it still sings. Put the Governor on, all three. And you just hold the notes. Because it's going into feedback. That's just feedback now. You know, I'm just holding that note is just feeding back perfectly. I can hold that forever if I want. And I love that chaos, like that just then. And then dragging it back in. You know, it's like wrestling a giant. You know what I mean? It's gonna, or a dragon, it's gonna get unruly and it's gonna get a bit crazy and run away with you. But you have to rein it back in. But at the same time, there's so much you can do with it, so much expression. Like, just because you can't stop playing, no pun intended, doesn't mean you have to play constantly fast. You know, like, I think like Yngwie Malmsteen, for instance, Yngwie plays so super fast all the time. You know, there's never any gaps really to Yngwie's playing. And because he uses a noise gate, as soon as he does stop playing, it's zoop, gone. That's another thing. I like my amp to make noise. I don't really like it when my amp's completely quiet. It freaks me out. Anyway, I like amps to buzz or hum or whatever, or hiss. But anyway, but feedback isn't something to be... I don't like it when people say if your guitar's feeding back, you need to turn the gain down, you've got too much gain. There is no such thing. Because like I say, people with YouTube all the time, it comes down to what you want and what you like. It's not about what Phil X or anybody else on the internet says you need to have. You know, this is the way you should dial in your guitar amp. You know, this is the way you should have this. Da, 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 da. No, if you want it set a certain way and somebody says that's wrong, it's not wrong. It's right because you want it. My pedal board, I've been told a million times I've got my pedals in the wrong order. They're set up wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. This is wrong. Your guitars are set up wrong. You're using this, you're using that. Da, 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 da. But I couldn't care less what people say because the fact is, this works for me and it gives me that ability to express myself and also gives me the ability to channel music through me, which is what I'm here for in the first place. And feedback is just an extension of that. You know, and I love feedback. It can say so much. You know, Jimi Hendrix taught us that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just where Jimmy would just come out on stage and kick on his fuzz pedal and just start doing this. I'm not doing anything. I'm just manipulating the tremolo. That can say a million things. That could be anger, depending on how you feel. That could be sadness, because venting sadness can do that same thing. Sadness isn't on an instrument always just soft and gentle. You know, that's not always how you would express sadness. For me, like I say, another way I could express sadness is with feedback, doing... just letting it go. You know, it can be pain as well. If like you're in pain, it can scream for you. You know, and that's what I always love about the guitar. And that's why I love feedback and you know and just sending amps over the falls, because like I say, the guitar can scream for you when you can't. It can cry for you when you can't. It can, you know, ask for help when you can't. It can do all these things for you, but only if you allow it to do what it wants of you. You have to submit to music and the guitar and just let it take you. And feedback is one of those things that I think a lot of people shy away from and really shouldn't, because it's brilliant. It really is. And I do it all the time live. I mean, my guitar is constantly feedback live, to the point where I've had people actually come up to me at gigs and say, there's something wrong with your guitar. It feeds back all the time. And they get a bit confused when I say, yeah, I know, I'm making it do it. You know, people are like, why? Why would you do that? I think it's because, like, you know, feedback through like a PA system or something like, you know, something like that is very obnoxious and very horrible and not wanted. But it's not the same principle. I would agree. Feedback for a PA system is not great. It's not nice. You don't want that. Your PA wants to be nice and clean. But your guitar sound or your bass sound or whatever you're doing, you don't have to have it clean. You don't have to have it kind of like noise gated if you don't want. I mean, I understand why Yngwie does it, because otherwise his gigs would just sound like this all the time. You won't get very far. And every time he stops, it's that. So I understand why he noise gates it, because he has a lot of dramatic stops. But, you know, and he doesn't, because he flies around the stage, he can't be near his pedal board to turn it off and on. But Yngwie still has loads of feedback. He still uses feedback and controlled feedback and all this kind of thing. And there's a lot, I see it all the time over Instagram, of guitarists with that kind of like John Mayer level of gain, which to me is just my Marshall Governor. Which, what it allows you to do is stop. exaggerated example, but you know what I mean. Gives you the ability to stop, and your guitar will not feed back. You know, my volume's all the way up there, bridge pickup. It's not going to go. It's not going to go. If I'm lucky, I'll find a note where it will go. Nope. Not loud enough, not enough gain. Whereas I like it to just run away. I want it to run away. And again, like I say, combination of the Governor and the DS2, because I can't stop it. Look, this is what happens if I stop with the DS2. Can you imagine that in a blues jam? Sounds messy, but if I don't stop and play as flowy and as fluid as I can, just because it's loads of gain doesn't mean you don't have to stop playing. It can flow, and that's what I've always wanted. Like I say, I was talking about a violin earlier on. It's how a violin plays. Violin doesn't play staccato way. Well, it does occasionally, but not really if it's playing a melody. And I always wanted to be able to play melodies on the guitar. Like, you know, this thing is fun. And I love doing that kind of thing. It's fun. It's great for like dramatic moments. But over that, I've always wanted to be able to just do this. Again, because I don't, I'm just letting it go. And again, because it's unpredictable, you really stay on your toes with it. This is not going anywhere other than where I send it. Whereas with feedback is unruly. It does what it wants, regardless of what you want it to do. It's going to go where it wants, and it's your role to control that. And it is like trying to wrestle a bear sometimes. And the louder your amp, the more fun it is. The louder your amp, the more gain, the more kind of air you're pushing, the more fun feedback gets. I love feedback at this level, but it's not loud. But it can be used to such dramatic and emotional thingies. And again, it gets overlooked so much. I mean, I've always loved it. And again, it's part of my playing. Because again, people like Jimi Hendrix, John Frusciante, Kurt Cobain, these people, they taught me that it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something like, I remember like when I first started experimenting with feedback, it was like, oh God, what do I do with it? What do I do with it? How do I control this thing? But the more I mess with it, the more I'm like, this is amazing. It's really helping me express myself and just, get what's in out. You know what I mean? And also kind of like it can just do amazing like things to music. It really can. I love it to bits. I just love the unruly nature of it. And I love the fact that basically your guitar is playing itself. If I just turn it on, I'm not doing that. It's making its own sound. If I move, it'll change. you know, it plays itself, and I love that. You know what I mean? And everywhere I move, it changes its voice. And again, it's all about controlling it and being able to control it. And again, it's not something to be scared of. And it's not wrong if your guitar's feeding back. I can't stand that point. I can't stand it. It drives me mad when people say, oh yeah, if your guitar's feeding back, you need to turn the gain down. Or, you know, you've got too much gain. Maybe you should rein it in a bit. You shouldn't have gain on flat out. Who says? Where's the rule book? It says I can't do that because I'm going to do that. You know, I developed a bit of a complex for this quite a while back, people, Jim. I got over it, and I don't really care anymore because, again, what I found was it was taking what I wanted away. Because I was like, oh, maybe I am using too much gain. Maybe I should dial it down a bit. And I started dialing it down, and I hated it. Because I was like, it's not right for me. So, I would say this about feedback, just to wrap this video up. I hope I've made some kind of sense here. Experiment with it. Have fun with it. Let your guitar just go. And try and control it. You know, wrestle the bear. You know, but also let it help you express. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's very cool to have like mid-level gain. You know, at John Mayer level of gain. But experiment with like infinite amounts of gain. You know, stack distortion pedal or overdrive pedal on top of overdrive pedal on top of fuzz. Whatever you can. Just stack it all up and let it just go crazy. And just control it. Also, another one is using your volume control to control feedback as well. You can always do that, you know, just to kind of get different things. Wah-wah pedals work really well with feedback as well. You can do all sorts. Like, if I just turn on the DS2 and then the Ibanez wah, manipulating the wah-wah pedal's foot plate will give me different sounds. Put delay on that. All of a sudden you got otherworldly guitar sounds, you know what I mean? It's all of a sudden it's not necessarily just a guitar anymore. It's expressing something, you know, there's something in there. Anyway, but like I say, experiment with it. Don't be afraid of your guitar feeding back. Don't be afraid of it going crazy and stuff like this. I get questions all the time of people saying, how do you control the DS2? Every time I stop playing the DS2, with the DS2 it goes crazy. Turn it off. If you're doing like a John Frusciante kind of thing where you have like a bit of a solo thing and it comes to a thing with the DS2 and then you want to break, turn it off, turn it on again. John does it in the a good example of that is the bit before guitar solo in Other Side where he goes the you know, he's turning the pedal off and on. And that's, you know, Jimi Hendrix would do that all the time as well. Jimmy did this amazingly cool thing. Here's a little bit of a cool little Jimmy thing that Jimmy would do. So he would have his amps on normally, and he would start tapping the back of the headstock to start making the guitar feed back. So you can hear it's going. And then he'd use the tremolo arm to dive that pitch. But then what he would do is, as he's diving, he would turn his fuzz pedal off and on. So you get this. It's spooky. Especially if you put like delay on it and loads of reverb. It gets out of control really quick and I love that. It's really eerie. Also another thing that Jimmy would do as well as doing that, is he would flick his selector switch back. This turned into a Jimi Hendrix lesson now. But Jimmy was the guy who started this feedback thing really. I mean, I know the Beatles had done it. John Lennon had used it because he put his guitar against his amp. It started feeding back. It's on a Beatles record, but Jimmy took it to the next level. But Jimmy would do this as well, where he would flick his select switch backwards and forwards while dive bombing. So switch up. As I now dive bomb the guitar, I'm going to flick the switch back and then flick it back. Not really a feedback trick, but you know what I mean. It's good fun, and it sounds again really creepy. It's really eerie, but feedback really is nothing to be afraid of, and it isn't wrong for a guitar to be feeding back. I would say it's very right for a guitar to feedback if you like it to do so. You know, and even if you don't, if you're like, well, I'm not sure I would like that, try it anyway, and don't just try it once. Don't just kind of like go like, you know, oh no, don't like it. Give it a go. Try play a solo where you've got loads of gain and your guitar's feeding back. And again, just try and control it and play slow. And just let the notes sing. There's nothing wrong with chaos, and it's all good, you know. Yeah. So feedback's great. Don't shy away from it. Just because somebody said if your guitar's feeding back, it's wrong, it doesn't make it so. You know, like I always say, PeterTube, this thing is personal, and everyone's different. Everyone plays this differently. Everyone wants different things out of it. Everyone wants a different sound. Just because somebody else says it a different way doesn't mean they're wrong. Just because they say whatever way, you know, it's about finding what works for you. You know what I mean? And what you like and what you love, and ignoring the rest and just playing with what you love. You know what I mean? You've got to find that place where you're like, that's me. There I am. You know what I mean? And for me, like I said, I love feedback. I love it when it goes crazy. I love that feeling of just like of that almost out of control guitar playing, you know, where you can't stop playing. Because if you do, you get that wall of white noise or just kind of like really ear-piercing feedback. And live, people don't want to, you know, people don't want to be like, ah, like that. So you have to find a way to make the feedback say something. And it can. Feedback can do so much. And to just kind of like go, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I feel you're always missing out on another level of expression with the guitar. You know, it's like using a wah pedal just to go wah 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 with. You know, it can do so much more than just go wah wah wah. You know, it really is. Anyway, let me know what you think, PeterTube, in the comment section below. And also, do you love feedback or do you not like feedback? Let me know why in the comment section below. Like I say, try it, but don't just try it once. Don't just turn on the feedback and go, ooh, no. Try it again and again and again. You know, just keep coming back to it. It's not nothing to be afraid of. It's not something that you should be kind of like wary of or think is wrong, like some people say it is. It's not wrong. It's just another sound. And it's another technique as well that's out there to be mastered. I don't think you can master feedback. You have to control it. And I think it does, because it is totally out of your control most of the time, to control it is fun. You know what I mean? Like, you know, most of the time. What am I on about? Some of the time, I mean. Like, you know, because you can control it. Like I said, Gary Moore's Big Long Parisian Walkways note. Play the note right. I think it needs to be over here. There we go. Where is it? That'll go forever. And I can let it go. I've got control, complete control over this feedback note. I can stop it when I want, I can bend it when I want, I can just let it go. can't do that with this amount of gain. You know, it's not gonna go. It's not gonna let you. I mean, it would if it probably would if it was louder, but it's still not the same. You know, you always when you listen to Gary's amps live, there's always this kind of like a hissing noise like that in the background of his amps just hissing away because how much gain he had. And Jimmy is exactly the same. You can hear Jimmy's amps hissing away. You know what I mean? Amps aren't supposed to be dead silent. You know what I mean? I always like amps to make some kind of noise. Like that. You know, it's great. Anyway, I'm going to get off. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below, people too. And like I say, try feedback. Enjoy it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't believe what people say when they say it's wrong, your guitar shouldn't feedback. A load of nonsense. If you want it to feedback, you want it to do that, then do it. Like I say, people too, all the time, the most important person when it comes down to your sound, your setup, your pedals, your amp, is you. If you want to use this, this, and this, and this, because that's what you love and that's the way you want to sound, that's what you use. No one should tell you otherwise. They will try, but don't listen to them. Do what you want. Like I say, just enjoy it, you know. And again, feedback is just another way of expressing yourself. And again, it's up there with bending. It's up there with vibrato. You know, feedback is just another expression tool to use on the guitar to make it sing. Again, anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, YouTube. I will see you again very soon for another video. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you again. If you like the channel, please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. Links down in the description box below, as well as links to other things, including my band and whatnot. So thank you very much indeed. See you again. Goodbye now. Again, feedback is great. Feedback is amazing. Embrace it.